Good morning. Hope you're having a wonderful start of your week. We are in Acts 24, and I have to ask you one question. Do you still have someone in your life, perhaps elderly, who has that old school elegance? I tell you, I think about my grandmothers, both sides, how when I would go in their house, you could eat off the floors. Such high standards of cleanliness. They had an eloquence. They had an elegance. They had their penmanship, that old school way. They slowed down and just had such depth in their character. In Acts 24, it talks about how Paul responded to an attorney, Tertullus, right? Because he was brought before the high priest and the judge, most noble Felix, in verse 3. And I just love how, after all these accusations, he's doing this and that, how Paul responded with calm cheer. In verse 10, it says, Paul, after the governor had spoke, beckoned unto him to speak, right? Well, the judge was like, what do you have to say? And Paul was like, in verse 10, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself. My goodness, if you just look at old films, how people used to speak with eloquence and grace and force. Those are the ingredients. And he said, I will fully answer for myself. I don't know if you have a meeting today. I don't know if you have had accusations rallied against you. But look at these principles. I'm telling you, the Bible is alive. In verse 12, he was saying, neither found in me the temple disputing with any man or any people in the synagogues, neither in the city, right? They took the time. They didn't snap back and just text back and respond in the flesh. But they took the time to be mindful. And like I said, Proverbs, talk about the speech and the tongue and how we are to be ordered by the Lord, how we conversate. Conversate is not only how we speak, but how we move, how we negotiate outdoors. In verse 14, it says, I confess, yes, I, worship the God of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and the prophets. And in verse 16, he says, I exercise myself always to have a clear conscience, void of offense toward God and of men. Ooh, I'm telling you, if you have any type of dispute or ought, or if someone is, against you, or just don't clap back. Don't clap back in the flesh, right? Exercise yourself cheerfully under God's rule. Know that he will give you the words, right? The Holy Spirit is for that. He said he'll bring things to your remembrance, and you don't even have to pre-think it. If you're full of the Holy Spirit. Now, if you're not, then you're full of yourself and flesh. Then that's when you get all that anger and all the regret and, oh man, I gotta, retract that statement. The media, you see that all the time where they're like, oh, I did something stupid, right? I said something stupid. In verse 19, we ought to have been here before thee, right? Paul is kind of like casing someone out. That's what we used to say. But he's kind of attacking someone, but very in a subtle manner. He's like, if there are some allegations, the person should be here, right? He said, who ought to have been here before thee and object if they had aught against thee. I tell you, the word that comes to mind is the acrostic deep. D is for dignity. In everything that you do, high standards of elegance. E is eloquence, right? Having that grace and force that your words will be ordered by the Lord, and they're powerful. And you don't have to yell. You don't have to scream. The volume does not have to be turned up because it's the power of the Lord. So the depth, the dignity, the elegance, the eloquence, elegance meaning the high standards, the way you move, the way you conversate in the world. And P is something, and this might be a poor example, but when I was yesterday looking at the bill of ladings and the deeds of the slaves. And I was like, oh my goodness. But something about it, and I saw that in my mother's writing and my grandmother's, that penmanship. Ooh, that old school penmanship. It might have taken them 24 hours to write a letter, a one-page letter, but they took their time. Let's take our time. Be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to wrath. James 1:19. Let's slow it down and be mindful of what the Lord is saying to us on this day. Have a great day, having dignity and the grace of God.